All right, everyone, it's time to correct the Biden fans because I see them. People love to cherry pick polls. Trump likes to do this too. Like if Rasmussen shows him up at 52, 53% approval, you can bet he'll make a tweet and there'll be, a picture of him waving with the flag and a sun rising behind him and an eagle shedding a single tear on his forehead. And that's sort of how he works. CNN, though, and other groups have been cherry picking polls for a long time, and it's especially prevalent with the legacy media because they do their own polling. So there was a CNN poll about 2 weeks ago showing Biden 11 points ahead of Donald Trump in a head-to-head matchup. The problem is this is only one poll. It's an outlier well outside of a standard deviation. The average is around 5 points. That is that Biden is leading by that margin. And it also ignores the fact that Hillary Clinton, I think, was quite a bit further ahead actually in aggregated matchup at this particular point in 2016. Until fairly late, it evened up later on, and that tends to happen, and that'll probably happen here. What'll happen, I expect, is that Trump and Biden will be basically neck and neck in national polling by the time of November. It would, I think, take an act of God for that not to be the case, because enthusiasm for Biden is still mediocre at best, despite the injection of the Bernie fans who, they've got all of the humor about it of marching to a funeral. It's very funny to watch them sort of like, oh, I guess I'll have to settle for Biden. Oh, God, okay, we got to beat Orange Man, but, come on. It's like Zhank, Zhuger, and all of these other people. It's so funny to watch them eat crow over and over again. And he more than anyone else, like in 2016, it was funny, and this is a little bit semi-related. He was looking at cherry-pick polls in 2016 and thought, well, Hillary Clinton would be the next president, which he had to pretend to be excited about because, again, he's a Bernie fan. She loses, and he melts down on election night. People were clanking spoons in the chat by the thousands, and it was one of the greatest times ever. Can't wait to see that happen again for 2020. 2018 comes. He's expecting a blue wave. Republicans gain 2 Senate seats. No blue wave. Republicans managed to hold on in state houses across the country. Really, the only victory for the Dems was they took the House, and then by an underwhelming margin. They might lose that very well in 2020. 2020 is coming. If you look at aggregates within polling, look the link in the description to RCP. Never use any number other than an aggregate. And keep in mind that the national polling doesn't trickle down to the state level. In some states, Trump is outperforming. For instance, in Florida, it's already neck and neck. So you're telling me Trump can potentially win Florida while being 5 points behind in the polling average nationwide. That means he's actually desperately up in Florida. So if he goes into Election Day with the kind of supposed matchup loss that he had against Hillary, which again was about 2.5 points, if he gains another couple points of support in the matchup, I would, against Biden rather, because it doesn't even 100%, because there are people who support third parties, people who don't support anyone, they're going to stay home, then he'll win Florida by several points. Well, that's considerably more than the, 0.1% that he won by in 2016. He's running ahead in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, he's only like a point behind. This is the case in multiple competitive states. And then I love it when they try to pretend that places like Georgia and Arizona are competitive. Like, I guess the idea is, well, they're becoming more blue over time. And yet these same people discount the Rust Belt that went red for Trump and that he's still riding high in. He's still above and beyond 2016 numbers, and certainly prior numbers from 2008, 2012. If you look at the matchups, if you look at Trump's support in some of these states, Michigan was basically solid blue as little as a decade ago. It was going to the Democrats by the high single, low double digits. It's a very blue state. It went for Trump, and now it's about dead even, it seems. Trump is only slightly behind. And again, if he manages to close that gap to the same level he was in 2016, and there's no reason to believe that he can't do that, and probably exceed that, I would favor him to win Florida. I'd favor him to win Michigan. I'd favor him to win Wisconsin again. Pennsylvania is a little bit more out there, but I would expect he's got a good chance, if not a great chance. He could potentially win in a place like Nevada as well, and he's going to hold Texas and Georgia and all these states. Now, of course, something catastrophic may happen in the meantime, but Biden is not 11 points ahead of Donald Trump, and I see this shitpost made all across the internet. That is one CNN poll. It's an outlier, and it's by an unreliable polling firm. CNN is not one of the heavy hitters. You're looking, if I had to choose a single polling firm to trust, and that would be a dumb idea, I would choose YouGov. It's over the last 3 elections it has the best track record. Second of them is Rasmussen. Rasmussen has devolved back into overstating Trump's support. We saw this in the 2018 term. They were definitely overestimating support for the Republicans outside of the Senate races. They did well. In the House, it looked like it would be almost dead even. Well, of course, the Democrats retook the House by double digits. Underwhelming compared to expectations based even on polling aggregates, but certainly not based on Rasmussen. What I'm telling people is that you can't use any single poll. And if I was using YouGov, it would be about the same as the aggregate, which, by the way, is great. When a polling firm repeatedly is right in the middle and right at the aggregate, and that number turns out to be true most of the time, although not always, that polling firm should be weighted more reliable as opposed to, again, like a CNN or a Rasmussen. I think there are a couple of polling firms that have it in a dead tie. Now, if Trump goes into an election against Biden in a dead tie, I would favor him not only to win all the states he won before, but to pick up a few extras. Again, Pennsylvania is more on the border. North Carolina as well, potentially. Those were Trump states. They could flip blue. At the same time, Virginia, which went for Hillary Clinton, New Hampshire, which is pissed about Bernie getting schlonged, possibly even Maine, I would say are states that could potentially flip red. The same is true of Minnesota. It's close enough, and Minnesota is becoming a swing state right now. Minnesota, again, one of these states up here that were very, very blue for a number of elections. You have to go back basically to the pre-Clinton era to find an era in which they hadn't slanted heavily blue. The problem is the Democrats since then have been more weak. The Democrats post-Clinton have been more weak. Obama was strong in 2008, and that's really the only showing that they've had. Trump, meanwhile, managed to blow it out of the water while actually losing the popular vote. And I don't think that he'll lose the popular vote this time around. I think the gap will be closer. In fact, Trump might lead slightly over Biden by Election Day. Watch what happens at the debates. And never trust a single poll. Whenever you see someone say anything with regards to poll analysis, always challenge them to provide a source and discount it if it's a single poll. Even if it comports, by the way, to the aggregate. Compare it to the aggregate always. Because the aggregate will always, as long as there are enough polls being polled, as long as there are enough sampling points, it will almost always be more accurate. That's about all. Peace out.